For those of you that haven't heard of Turo before, quick raise of hands. If you have booked a vehicle or a car on Turo before, raise your hand. My people, I'm coming to give you high fives after this. So my name is Will. I work at Turo. I am a data analyst, and I came over from the sales side. Prior to this, I worked in sales for 12 years, and you might catch a little bit of that as I talk. If I talk fast, I've asked Drew over here to throw something at me. So if you see the audience throwing balls of lettuce at me, it's not because I'm doing terrible, it's because I'm talking too fast. Cool, so we're gonna dive into it. What I'm here to talk with you guys about was one of the craziest, most interesting things that I've done since working in data. Even prior to being on the data side, I did a lot of work running my own business, helping other businesses scale up. I was in the power tool industry for a while for Milwaukee Tools, and helped dealerships understand what's coming in through the back and how to get it out through the back door, and that was primarily through analytics. So I've been doing it a long time prior to having the knowledge. Let me put my cool little AI image of me up. Oh, this is my favorite image. You guys will see in the slide. Kendi knows my other favorite image. It's coming up. This will give you an outline of what we're going to talk through. I'm going to do a brief introduction of myself and why I'm here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the HBI, the Host Business Insights tool. We're going to talk about taking the HBI out of Salesforce. They told me not to say bad things about Salesforce, so I'm not going to. But that should tell you how I feel about Salesforce. Key takeaways, Q&A, and then we've got a cool little DDX brick exercise at the back end. Has anyone in here used a DDX brick before? All right, that's 2 more hands than I thought I would see. Congratulations. Cool. This is me. My wife made me put this image on here. It's an AI-generated headshot, and that's my quota for saying the word AI at least once through this entire presentation. I work in host analytics on Turo. We have guests which take the car and book it from a host, and they take a trip in it, similar to a rental car company. And then we have hosts who want to make money on Turo, and so what they do is they take their vehicle or vehicles and they list them on Turo to make money, booking them out. A lot of people will say that we are the Airbnb of cars. I like to believe that Airbnb is the Turo of houses. So I basically am very passionate about what I do. You'll probably pick up that vibe. My professional journey has been a little bit abstract. I went from working warehouse to being a server and a bartender, going into sales, absolutely loving and dominating in sales, top sales rep in Milwaukee, #1 in the world, don't worry about it. Went into leadership. Oh my goodness. Hopefully no one is offended by this. Leadership sucks. So I got out of leadership, went into data, and now I get to spend my entire day diving into a database and playing in Domo. Hopefully we have some Domo fans in here. It's a dream come true for me. That's literally all I do all day, Redshift and Domo. Let's talk about the HBI. If you are a power host, it means that you are large. You have 4+ vehicles. We've got hosts that have all the way up to 1,000 vehicles. At 100 vehicles, you're making $250,000 a month. And so as an entrepreneur, it's a lot easier to add a vehicle to a fleet than to go out and buy what some entrepreneurs would call a door, which would be a condo or something that you would book out on Airbnb or something like that. The platform itself, Turo, was built to support a host that has 1 vehicle on the platform, maybe 2, maybe 3. So at scale, you start to get complications, and the complications happen through visibility. If you can't see how your operation is doing, you can't improve it. And so a while back, myself and another person in the company, we started to build these tools for the reps to get really good at coaching hosts. And we said, hey, if we only point this, we went to the legal team, because that's what you got to do. We went to the legal team and said, hey, legal team, if we only allow these charts to show the host data, can we provide this to them through a login? And they said yes. and we foolishly put that in Salesforce. I promise, Kennedy, I won't say anything else about Salesforce. So that's what the HBI is. It's a dashboard that helps someone that has a large operation see exactly how they're doing on a vehicular level. Does this vehicle suck? Is it getting poor ratings? Do we need to pull it off? Is it priced well? Is it getting booked out? What do people think about it? And so that's what the HBI is. And as we built the HBI out, oh shoot, I spent a lot of time on this. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, it's gonna keep going, sorry guys. So the HBI consists of 4 major dashboards. You've got your earnings, you've got your ratings, you've got your pricing, which is how you're priced relative to your competition, and you've got your trend lines. So when we started to build all of this out, it started with 1 page, which is like, how is each vehicle doing? Because it was kind of hard to see that on the Turo app. And as the hosts had more needs, we had to try to scale this, and we had to add more stuff. And if you're using Salesforce, sorry, Kennedy, this is a B word to take this and continue to scale up. Every ounce of data that you pump in, every chart needs to be custom. It's not really built to scale. And so it was painful, and the load in alone would take 12 hours, and so you kind of had like a data delay of 48 hours on it. It sucked very badly, but you know, we were like, hey, there's got to be a better way. So we went to the Domo team and we said, hey, what if we brought this over to your guys' platform? What would that look like? And they said, we can do all that. And we knew they could because we used it for our internal insights. And so we had to make that decision. Do we in-house this and take the front end and the back end team and build something in the product or the app? And do we serve that up to the end user inside of the app using our like standard method of growing the product? Or do we buy? And when we looked across the board from an engineering cost, labor cost, maintenance, upkeep, and kind of just everything, the fact that we already know how to use Domo, it really just made sense. And a quick shout out to the Domo team. They did a great job. We were on the legacy pricing model. We switched to consumption, and at the end of the day, it saved us a ton of money. So talk to your rep about the consumption model if you haven't already. So when we looked at evolving the current solution in Salesforce, it was a high cost, limited customization, slower iteration. Create new custom app, expensive and time consuming, requires ongoing dev resources, high maintenance. And then on migrating to Domo, it really just checked all the boxes. It was already in the tech stack. It was already, we understood how to use it entirely. It turned out to be much more cost effective. And then scalability, as everyone here knows, Domo is incredibly scalable. And if anyone was here for, I think it was Justin Walsh that was just here, that guy blew my mind. There's like 10 things I want to go home and do after talking to that guy. So the next section, we're going to talk a little bit about the process and what that looked like. So keep in mind, everything's inside of Salesforce. Everything's in S3 buckets, which in my mind is a dirty word. I absolutely hate S3 buckets. But we had to get all of that into Domo. And they gave me 5 weeks. Hey, our contract ends here. You got to get it done by then. So the process to do that, for those of you that are considering migrating out of a currently existing BI tool over into, or other things that you house into Domo, it's pretty straightforward. Scope it out, get a list of all your data sets that you have. If hopefully you're not transitioning after you eliminate your previous BI tool. Understand how to match everything. There were some UI and chart type capabilities that were available in Salesforce, which is shocking to me, but were not available in Domo. So we went down the DDX brick rabbit hole, which I will tell you guys about later, but that basically just made it so we could do anything that was currently existing in Salesforce inside of Domo. So we had to really take a look at that, and that was the one thing that I would just call out really, really hard. We had to reinvent our data sets and our logic 3 times, and if you've got a 5-week timeline, pumping data in, pre-aggregated on different levels, 3 different methods, changing all the beast modes, views, etc., new PDP, not fun. So I would just say really test out how you need to bring that in a few times, because if you don't, you're going to have to do a lot of cleanup afterwards, or you're probably going to blow out that deadline because you have to go back and rebuild the data set. So we'll talk about a little bit about that a little bit later. The Databricks has some limitations for row count that break the brick, and that's really how we ended up running into that multiple iterations. And then the ETLs and the views, figure out what you want to transform in infrastructure and logic. Figure out what you want to transform inside of Domo. And you're going to hear it all week. There's 10 different ways to do anything inside of Domo or in infrastructure. Everyone knows if you work with SQL or any logic and database, there's usually 3 different ways to do anything inside of there. So find the best way, the most computationally sound, and then go ahead and keep moving. And then the big thing, if your company is global, make sure, especially with currency, that was the big thing that we ran into. Make sure that every ounce of data that you're going to present is, especially currency, that you've got some sort of concatenation function, that you've got an HTML table that's going to go ahead and place whatever currency is valid based on what country it's being presented to, or alternatives are using PDP restrictions based on country. So it was a fun and heavy undertaking. So the next one that I get a lot when I talk in the company, a lot of people kind of checking out the why we did what we did and where we did. How many of you have used App Studios in here? Okay. All right, a lot of the people that I talk to, they're living in dashboards, and I think all of us at one point have probably built something in dashboard. I don't think anyone's living exclusively in apps. I'd be shocked if they were. App Studio for us was quite honestly a game changer. There's some functionality in there that I'm not sure why it doesn't exist in dashboards, but it lives, man. It lives in App Studio, and it was great. The tabs function, being able to slide across multiple different types of insights inside of a page, global filters that you can select specific columns that apply those filters automatically across all insights, across all pages. That was a huge, huge one for us. And then if any of you have ever put a spacer in a dashboard, it's not a spacer, you're putting a text block and you're just kind of emptying it out. So from a nitpick perspective, I appreciated that the spacers existed. So we chose App Studio, and I firmly believe it was the right choice. The navigation was very nice. The ability to customize and kind of white label the presentation to our external user. We were able to go in and I love Domo. I want to talk to anyone and everyone about Domo. But for us, we had to figure out how to get that logo out of there. And then there's restrictions like disallowing people to be able to see kind of the magic behind the curtain. And all of that was incredibly possible inside of App Studios. So we definitely went with App Studios, and not at any single point have we ever said we wish we would have done this inside of dashboards. So can't recommend it enough. Cool. The one thing that was really new to us was PDP restrictions. And if you haven't messed with PDP restrictions, it's something that you'll apply onto a data set. And for us, every one of our users have a unique ID. We would call that the owner ID. And inside of the data set, you have a row for every host in the one that we're using our imagination to talk about. And inside of it, when the user logs in their people profile, their PDP has their owner ID. And the PDP layer, we tell it, hey, if that owner ID for the person that's logged in is not in this row, do not show it. Don't allow them to access it. Don't allow them to do anything funky and get access to it. So PDP was critical for us to not have a PII exposure and make sure that they did not have the ability to get to other users' information. So we wanted to make sure it was super secure. quick call out, and I'm glad he's not here. He'll probably think I'm a fanboy. Justin called out that there is a data brick that you can do to apply PDPs across multiple data sets. If you have ever had to do this, it's a pain in the keister. You have to apply it upstream, because if someone gets to your control function and you have emails as a filter, they can click that and they'll be able to scroll through all of the options in the data set if you don't have PDP applied all the way upstream. Super important. Cool. So we've gone through the security aspect. On the ETL side, quick show of hands, and I use this to gauge like how nerdy I can talk. How many of you have used Magic ETL? Oh yeah, my people. Okay, so I love Magic ETL. I could talk about it for way too long, but there's literally everything that we could want to do to prep the data to be presented to the end user. We've got vehicle level data, we've got reservation level data, we've got vehicle supply day level data. You need to flatten it, you need to apply rank. I only want to see the top 10 of something. And Magic ETL is just so wonderful. The drag and drop functionality, you can create these cool little designs that I'm like, sweetie, come look at my Magic ETL. And she's like, okay, cool. Yeah, it's true. He knows, Drew knows, he knows my wife. But yeah, this is some examples of some cool things that really inside of the platform that shall not be named, you just can't do it as easily, or you really have to go through so many steps. So Magic ETL, we had a problem where the input was the same primary key multiple times. So just like I said, we just threw a rank on it, and we wanted the one that was the most recent. So rank function is wonderful. Market area, we have some chicken scratch DAs and DEs from back in the day. Not you, Ryan, you do a great job. And so we needed to clean that up. So we made a database, joined it together, and now we've got market area alias. So I won't go through all these, but Magic ETL just did a wonderful job. We can get away with a lot as DAs when all of the data is internal, but when it's an external facing data set or just even column names, we need the end user to feel like they're getting an experience that's reflective of the quality of the actual product itself, and not just the data that we're showcasing. So ETL does a great job of cleaning that up. It sounds like by the show of hands, all of you guys are fully well aware of that. Let's see what we got next. So Domo cards, I won't spend too much time on this. I won't even ask you guys to raise your hands. Just build. That's the biggest thing. I was laughing with Kennedy, and I was like, when I was getting started on all this, one of the things that I ran into is, you guys named that button beast mode, and I was afraid to click that thing, dude. And she's like, yeah, internally we've talked about that quite a bit. And I was like, but don't change it, because it makes it so people don't screw up my data set. So leave it there. Anyone who doesn't know what beast mode is, they don't click it. They don't click it. So yeah, but just start building. When you go to commit and you go to make that transfer, just start slapping some cards down. There's going to be a lot of insights that you're going to have that are going to be very similar. If you're doing something similar to us, you just start building those cards, and especially the 5-week timeline, you're really under the gun, and you just keep moving. So undo button as your friend. Find a card that you like that will showcase the insight. So if you've got a card and you're just like, man, this really nails what I'm trying to showcase, but I need to showcase different data, use that save as function, save that card again, and just change the parameters in the card. So you can move very, very quickly in Domo, very, very quickly. Beast modes, bring your data in raw. So this is something that Ryan actually taught me when I was coming up. Still am coming up, actually, if you ask him. But bring your data in a very raw form. If you haven't already become familiar with this, weighted averages are a nasty thing. Bring your data in, sum it up, and then average it out. And what I find a lot of people do is they try to aggregate in infrastructure. But when you bring it in, pre-aggregated, you lose the ability to use views and join things up together, manipulate that data later on. So best practice, I mean, if you have, inbound data restrictions where you have to slim those rows down, for sure, slim them down. But by and large, the best thing that we did was bring the data in a very raw form so that we could join it up and manipulate it with Magic ETL, views, and some of the other tools that are in there. So, and then I hope I don't get anything thrown at me. ChatGPT is your friend, though I will say I put this deck together before I found out what Grok is. She knows. So Grok is amazing. Beast mode, when you go to talk to ChatGPT about it, I'm sure all of you are familiar. It's in like a pseudo syntax or a pseudo SQL syntax. So there's some functionality that isn't quite the same. ChatGPT tries to output code in there that beast mode is just not super keen on. The null function, if anyone has ran into the error for not using null if, things like that. It's basically just a completely different, not a completely different language, but a relatively different language. This is the point in the presentation where I would go on a tangent about how Salesforce makes you learn SQL, but I won't, I promise. And then case statements. Case statements are your friend. Anyone in here who is new to beast mode, new Domo client, just fall in love with case statements. There's so much that you can do. There's so much you can do to make your charts and your insights do wonderful, wonderful things. And case statements oftentimes are the key to being able to do more complicated versions of it. So fall in love with case statements. They are your friend, and they're going to be absolutely everywhere by the time you get done with this process. All right, this is the part where I had to pay Kennedy $20 to make sure that I didn't have to put this down as an advanced section. So I put a lot of effort into making sure that you all fine folks felt like it wasn't advanced so that Kennedy lets me keep this spot next year. So DDX bricks are huge. They're amazing. And if you are used to generative AI and you're a data person and you're not a JavaScript person, this is not so far away as you might think. The one qualm I will have is if it errors out, nothing is going to show. It's not going to show until it works. Your friend is F11 in the dev console. You'll see errors pop up inside of there. So if you go to run this when you test it, because ChatGPT spits something out and nothing is showing, push, I think it's F11 or F12. Anyone correct me on that? And in Chrome or whatever you use, the dev console will come up on the side, and on the right side, it'll say what error is coming up that's not allowing this to run. That's a pro tip. I'm not going to charge you guys for that. They already did. So, but yeah, it's very simple. You're going to have a layer of JavaScript that's going to tell it how to function. You're going to have a layer of HTML that's going to tell it how to be pretty. Anybody who had a Facebook back or a MySpace back in the day, HTML and CSS is finally paying off. And then you're going to have some and you're just going to have a time. It sucks. I'm not going to lie. It sucks when you do your first ones. But do column mapping. Make sure that you get all your columns right. If it's not popping up, a lot of the times you've got some issues with column mapping. But yeah, DDX bricks just completely blow the doors off of your ability to put anything together. And we found that out, and we ran into some walls, and DDX bricks were how we got over it. So love it. The big call out is if you have data sets, we found it was usually around 600,000 rows. It just breaks. It just won't load. So hopefully they get past that. But the call out is like if you start to, if your code is good and everything's good and stuff's just not loading, you might have too much data pumping into it. You might need to ratchet that back. And the way that we did that was pre-aggregation. So cool. Key takeaways. Love that picture too. But this is the second best one. Kennedy said they try to take this picture out. Can you believe that? Unbelievable. Ridiculous. Key takeaways. Build smarter, not harder. Do a lot of thinking. Hopefully everyone in here knows this. It's the old measure twice, cut once. Spend some time scoping it out. really think and do some small tests. What you were able to create, even in Tableau as a for instance, when you go to do it inside of Domo, oftentimes you need to add one more thing to get it to do what it did inside of Tableau. Reach out to your Domo reps and ask them, like Trellis was one of those things that there were some things we were able to do inside of the previous instance and we couldn't afterwards, and it turned out we were just not using the Trellis function correctly. So also too, it might already be there before you go down a 3-day rabbit hole in DDX bricks. Kind of check around, poke around, and see if you're able to do it. Reach out to your rep, or double check that it's not already capability inside of Domo. Leverage all the tools at your disposal. Can't stress this enough. We thought it was going to be very straightforward transferring this over, and we literally, the walls that we ran into along the way, where we were like, well, it works over here, it should just work over here. We really did have to go all the way down the rabbit hole. I figured out how to run Python scripts, so that was fun. We had to use the CLI at one point to do some kind of triage work. But ultimately, there's not a single thing in there that we didn't touch or explore. And there's things where we found, and we were just like, this would be badass, but we're like, 5 weeks, we don't have time to badass anything. So we really just kept moving. But I've got a long to-do list of things I want to play with. Break free from the default dashboards. Man, has anyone in here read the book, Storytelling with Data? Oh, yes, Death to Pie Charts. It's one of the best books I've ever read in my life. And if you take $23, I think, on Amazon, you've got to buy it. It is so good. Front to back, cover to cover, it is wonderful. The gal that wrote it is quite honestly a genius. She doesn't go over the top. She says it exactly like it is. She gives wonderful, wonderful examples of why one way is better than the other. But this is in the early part of the book. Break free from the default. Don't just use the default. And I say this because, if you have standardization that requires that, go ahead. Don't tell them, Will sent me and he said I can do whatever the heck I want. Really just try to find out what Domo is capable of. Oftentimes when I roll through dashboards, you just see a lot of bar charts. You see a lot of noise in places, and you kind of get lost in the signal unless you know what you're looking for. With the HBI, we had to make sure that everything that we were sharing was completely consumable by people who may have never looked at a chart previously in their life. So we really had to make sure that what we were presenting was almost overly intuitive, and that I could go to my 8-year-old daughter and say, sweetie, how much do you think this power hose made in Q1? And she should have told me 125K if I raised her right. But that's really like, you can get that out of the defaults. Domo does a great job of that, but I can't stress this enough. Don't stay on that popular tab. I wish you guys would mix that thing up. Just like Costco it, just like move things around a little bit, make them go to the back of the aisles. But yeah, just explore around, look at absolutely everything, because there are things in there that will just make light bulbs turn on and make changes happen and really inspire action. So do not stay with the default. And then finally, empower user customizations. Kind of goes into that last one, but this is the one thing that I'll call out. If you have not messed with Domo forms, you got to do it. They're wonderful. If you are an ETL person, mess with views. Oh, I love views. So views and a form, if you want, as an example, if you want to take a host that wants to know what their profit and loss is, take a Domo form and have them input. They click on their car, they select their car, they put in what the monthly overhead is on that vehicle, and they type it in and they push enter. And if that Domo form's output is joined up on a PK, the page will now show immediately. In ETL, you'd have to run it. And so it's going to be the next day or whatever your runtime on that is. But if it's a view, then what's going to happen is that data is immediately going to impact the charts on that page. Incredibly cool stuff. So I would just strongly encourage you messing around. If you haven't messed with Domo forms, if you haven't messed with views, you got to mess with views. They're so good. Okay. I want to leave it just to look at the dog for a little bit, but I won't. She said, don't get hung up on the dog, Will, so I'm not going to do it. Oh, it looks like they're going to make me stay on the dog. It's not me, I promise. Did you guys get a chance to see Kennedy on the stage earlier? Wasn't she amazing? You guys give Kennedy a round of applause. Oh, killed it. That's why I'm nervous right now. You absolutely killed it. Cool. So let's go on to the next one. This is a very short DDX brick exercise. Now, I tried to stay out of the weeds. I think it did a great job. But if anyone has complaints, just write them on a $20 bill and bring them up to the stage afterwards. I will take all of them. We're just going to talk about a very basic nav bar. In Domo dashboard and not Domo apps, you sometimes do have a user that you don't want to send over to the sidebar to get to a sub page or something like that. Now you can put a hyperlink inside of a text box, but it's not the prettiest thing in the world. So what you're going to do is you're going to do a DDX brick. Now don't get scared. This was not on the advanced section. So we're good. We're good here. So you're going to go into the App Store and you're going to find what's called blank brick. And this is important because it needs those parameters preloaded. You're going to load that up and it's going to say, hey, do you want to create this in your instance? What dashboard? So you're going to go ahead and create it and pull it up afterwards and go to edit. Now once you edit, you're going to have those three tabs. You're going to have the JavaScript tab, you're going to have the HTML tab, and you're going to have the CSS tab. The JavaScript is so easy. It's right here. I did this with ChatGPT in a single shot, just to give you guys the confidence. ChatGPT is your friend in this if you're not a JavaScript person. So you pump this in there, and this is just saying hey, we're building a tab, dude. It's just a tab. When you click, this is what we want it to do. If they're on that page, we want it to light up in a certain way based on the HTML and the CSS. And then, so the next tab is going to be the HTML. This is how easy it is. All we're doing, and this is what it's going to look like for the page that we're on. You can see the nav item active is the earnings tab, and that's why over on the left, the earnings tab is highlighted. So all you're doing is just declaring which one is active, how do we want that HTML to act. And those button classes are going to be called to in the JavaScript. If this doesn't work, it's usually because you called it one thing here, and you called it the other thing there. ChatGPT likes to mess with you like that sometimes. CSS, it looks a little bit more complicated, but all we're doing is telling it what color we want things, what style, cascading style sheet. So all of this is very simple. If anyone wants a copy of this afterwards, let me know. ChatGPT, I'm telling you, just knocks this thing out of the park. Super easy. And this is what it looks like. So I got a cool little GIF. My wife taught me to do this. I love that woman. And that's what it looked like. And you can embed those hyperlinks. Now think as an end user that you kind of isn't super Domo-fied like all of us. You're going to tell them oh, if you want to go to the child pages, go, expand the thing on the left. And if, you got all these other dashboards, then you have to scroll down this and that. This is the alternative. So you create a cool little DDX break. This whole thing took me about 10 minutes, 12 minutes. And now when they click on the different page, it'll pop over. Now keep in mind, this isn't going to be on every page. So what you would do is you would create a new DDX brick in the same way, and you would just change the attributes to mark which page is active. And then the CSS styles will automatically apply. So on the performance page, the performance button is going to be active for that DDX brick to be at the top. I'm still, I'm not in the advanced category, right?
We're all good.
Perfect. Cool. All right. So now everyone knows I love talking about Domo. That's great. Mission accomplished. Let's let you guys talk about Domo. Do you have any questions about anything that we talked about? You look like Guy Fieri, dude. It's crazy. It's blowing my mind.
I've heard that, yeah.
That's great.
Is Grok just better than
Using ChatGPT for syntax code?
Man, it's such a good question. There's days where I'm a hardcore ChatGPT user, love it for debugging and everything. Grok really is like, I find that I can one-shot things so much better, and then the voice that I can tell it to provide those responses in seems to be much better for me. There's days where I don't want to deal with ChatGPT shit. Sorry for the language, but Shaq swore, so I should be able to swear. But like Grok is like, I can tell it to respond in a concise way, and I kid you not, it's almost too concise. It's very short. And if I'm in a learning mood, then I can tell it, I wouldn't use the Socratic one because it asks you a bunch of rhetorical questions. It's kind of like, oh, buddy. But yeah, you can kind of change the response type. But what I find is the most helpful is ChatGPT for larger code blocks. You hit about 200 lines of code, or you get like 5 prompts away from your original ask, and it starts to lose things. Grok hangs on to everything, like for better or worse. Sometimes you have to tell it, like, hey, chill, bro. And then it'll rattle off like 800 lines, no problem. And you don't have to go through it, like QC it for sure. But I'm saying like, you don't ever have to worry about with ChatGPT where it just like loses random variables and you're just like, hey, bro, like what happened there? So Grok to me is like the amount of time that I spend not punishing ChatGPT, like the AI overlords are coming for me for sure with how I talk to ChatGPT sometimes. But Grok, we're homies, dude. And I've been using it for admittedly like a week and a half, and I'm probably gonna cancel my ChatGPT subscription because it's so much better for coding. Which one? Anthropic I have not used yet. Or Claude? Yeah, Claude's a little bit too whimsical for me. Like if I was gonna write a fantasy book about writing SQL, then I'd probably use Claude. Yeah, but I mean, like I have people that swear by it, but for Domo specifically, I spend too much time telling it like, hey, that doesn't work in Domo. Like that, what you're trying to tell me just doesn't work in Domo. And you have to tell it like in the same instance a number of times. So, but what it says before and after the code is really pretty. I love it. Another question, anyone? Yes, sir.
Can you talk about some of the savings or benefits you found from switching over to consumption?
Yeah, Kenzie, where you at? Okay, so I'm not gonna do anything crazy, I promise. No, it's been wonderful, and especially if you're coming from Salesforce, like I don't know what I'm allowed to say. Ali Keegan, my legal beagle, is so like somewhere in the room, I know it. But I mean, the savings have been astronomical. And when we just look at a contract perspective, it just makes sense. So that right there, just in and of itself from like the base cost. And then I was kind of talking to Nicholas, I ran into him earlier and just told him, I said, from a consumption basis, Domo does such a good job parking your legacy data inside of a spot, and they're just like, hey, we're not gonna charge you for that. So we have a lot of mega sets that's just not taxing our consumption. And what it really has done, because the Domo reps are like, hey, you don't use it, you lose it, right? At the end of your cycle. And so what it's done is inspired creativity. And we're like, well, now I kind of want to mess with the AI layer, and I'm not afraid of using that. You start to see this gap grow for how much you aren't using, and what your team starts to do is it goes from being kind of concerned about creativity taxing the system to, hey, if we aren't creative, we're gonna kind of lose these consumption credits. And so we're just realizing it. We have to roll it out into the culture. But I think that's the part that I'm the most excited about is we're not afraid of creativity for using the different tools. We're actually like, we kind of have to, let's use these. So that's been the biggest thing for me. And then just everything took so long in Salesforce. Everything was so arduous. So really just from a time perspective and like a sanity perspective, you can't put a price tag on that, but I've just like, my gray hair count is like way down, dude. It's awesome. So yeah, great question. One more question. Or you guys can get the time back. Everyone loves that. Good to go?
Yeah, all good.
Cool. Thank you guys for hanging out with me.